When someone is spiraling out of control, society often defaults to a single prescription: tough love. We assume strict discipline cures bad habits. Looking at this photograph of a Russian choir, you'd never guess it holds the hidden truth of a desperate man named Lushkov. Today, he's a beggar who survives by spinning elaborate contradictory lies, claiming to be an unfairly fired schoolteacher or an expelled student just to get a few coins. In reality, he was a talented singer, dismissed for chronic alcoholism. His routine hits a wall when he crosses paths with Sergei. Sergei is a wealthy, highly logical lawyer who immediately recognizes the beggar from a previous encounter on a completely different street. Realizing he's being conned, Sergei is furious. He corners Lushkov, cuts through the lies, and threatens to hand him straight over to the police for attempting to defraud him. It's a classic standoff. But it raises an important question. When you confront a chronic liar and addict with the threat of punishment, do you actually fix the underlying problem, or do you just teach them to lie better the next time? Instead of calling the authorities, Sergei decides to offer a strict moral test. He tells the beggar that he will only hand over any money if Lushkov comes to his house and earns it by chopping wood. Lushkov is physically ruined by alcohol and has absolutely no genuine desire to do manual labor. Yet, out of sheer panic and the bitter shame of being caught in his own trap, he agrees to the task. This is where Sergei's plan reveals a massive blind spot. The lawyer genuinely believes that forcing a weakened man to act responsibly through intimidation is the exact same thing as teaching him responsibility. The reality of this test plays out at Sergei's house, where we meet Olga. She is Sergei's intensely resentful cook, and her first act is to violently shove the frail beggar out into the freezing woodshed to get to work. Looking at this heavy crosscut saw and axe, you can understand the sheer physical demand being placed on a fragile, starving man. Watching safely from his warm dining room window, Sergei sees Lushkov hesitate, visibly terrified of dropping the heavy blade on his own foot. Lushkov is utterly incapable of swinging the axe properly, and yet, after an hour, Olga returns and reports that the wood is entirely chopped. These silver kopecks represent the resulting transaction. Sergei hands the beggar his first half-ruble for what appears to be a job well done. For Sergei, this finished task is definitive proof that his logical framework is an immediate success. He is entirely blind to the reality of what actually happened out in that shed. A routine is born. Lushkov returns on the first of every month to earn 20 to 40 kopecks for odd jobs, like shoveling the snow, organizing the shed, and sweeping the yard. Yet his bleak demeanor never lifts, even when hired to help Sergei move furniture. Lushkov remains silent and shivering, standing ashamed as the other laborers mock his ragged coat and physical weakness. Believing the labor has disciplined the man, Sergei graduates him to clean, intellectual work. He gives Lushkov a letter of recommendation for a document copying job. As they part ways, Sergei pats Lushkov on the back with immense self-satisfaction. He takes full personal credit for rescuing a broken man from the gutter. The illusion is now completely cemented. As Lushkov walks away, both Sergei and the audience are left believing that strict logic, enforced discipline, and economic incentives have successfully cured a hopeless addict. Fast forward 2 years. Sergei is paying for a ticket at a theater window when he suddenly spots a very familiar face buying a seat in the gallery. It's Lushkov, but he is now a well-dressed gentleman leaning toward the window to pay for his seat with copper coins. A blue notary sign like this one reflects his new socio-economic reality. Lushkov proudly announces he is now a working notary, making a highly respectable 35 rubles every single month. Sergei is ecstatic. He boastfully calls Lushkov his godson and takes a conversational victory lap, congratulating himself for putting the man on the right path. It's the absolute peak of the savior complex. Sergei claims total ownership over Lushkov's success, completely ignorant of the actual struggle that took place behind closed doors. Lushkov thanks Sergei for the opportunity, but then adds a detail that upends Sergei's entire memory of their time together. He revealed that he never chopped a single piece of wood in that shed. The real work was done by Olga. The cook would drag him outside and aggressively curse him, but then she would break down. weep out of pure pity over his miserable state, and chop every single log herself. Watching Olga cry for him, while she took on the physical burden he couldn't handle, was the moment Lushkov finally stopped drinking. Her sacrifice provided the internal shift that Sergei's threats never could. Sergei provided the documents and the legal connections to help a man survive, but it was Olga's unseen labor that gave Lushkov the reason to actually show up for the job.